Okay, so we'll talk now about Western thoughts and culture, but from the point of view of development of capitalism during the Industrial Revolution. Again, this is a very important topic because it moves us to the idea of development, as that we discussed last time, also in maybe in the during the conference for those who attended. But here we are talking about capitalism and the Industrial Revolution, how things moved because of the difference in ideology from a world of that used to be so bizarre, moving to capitalism, and that was to in the era of Industrial Revolution. Now, how did that happen? To discuss this, we'll talk about this revolution in this era. You can see here the years where the Industrial Revolution happened, and that was here we refer to certain ideas or certain developments that were raised in that time. One of them is the rise of the machines that made different or many goods, and that began in England at 1700. Okay, and at that time you can see that it didn't begin. It began in England, and it had, why England specifically? Because we have the natural resources there. For example, we have water power, we have coal, using them for fuel, and that was very important for new machines. Also, iron. Um, we have iron that was used to construct machines also. And we have tools and irons used for tools and buildings at that time. Also, the rivers there in England, for example, the island transportation, that was very important. We have the harbors, and merchants used to use them for their ships and to set their sails at that time. You can see here the pictures that used to be at that time. For example, we have the what we call the flying shuttle. We have the shipping jennies. In a way, we have the innovative creation of industrial revolution. For example, here you can see the spinning, how it used to work, the flying shuttle. You can work on each one of them and see if you want to Google it. The cotton mills, for example, the steam engines, the factories. That was the time it began. And you can see, for example, Adam Smith, one of the main major names, and known in England. He has very well-known ideas, especially for those who study business and administration. So he's the founder, let's say, of capitalism in a way, because he believed in free economy and free markets. And he wrote the book which is called The Wealth of Nations. Very, very important book named by that was presented by Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. You should always remember this name. And he introduced economic liberty that is guaranteed by economic, being the guarantee for economic progress. So he believed that you cannot have progress in economy unless you have economic liberty. And when you say economic liberty, it means there's no such governed by the government. So the rules are just the competition of, and free market, free economy. So less, let's say, rules by the government itself. Okay, so he talked about three natural laws of economy and economics. One of them is what he called law of self-interest, and we have the law of supply and demand and the law of competition. So we have three laws that I'm sure that you know. But it's good to know that he is the one who founded such rules, he called them natural laws, okay, and he mentioned them in his book, The Wealth of Nations. Now, the law of self-interest says that people work for their for their own good, which means I do it for my own good, not for others, because it fits to me, it's good for me, okay? So this is the first rule that he mentioned. Rule 2, it is the law of supply and demand. So he said enough goods will be produced at the lowest possible price. So we should, he is talking about good, or let's say enough goods, okay? And the production based on the lowest possible price. So this comes, and later this gives the idea of later on of competition. So it's lower possible price to meet the demand in the market economy. So this is a supply and demand issue. Upon the supply, the demand is upon the supply. So lowest possible price to have it according to meet, let's say, the demand of the market. Okay. Now, the law of competition says that competition forces people to make better product, because if you have only one product without competition, okay, only one, for example, we only have one orange, or we don't have only one, let's say, Zane, for communication. If there's no competition, you will not have that, development in each. For example, now Zen is working on what is called fiber. Orange till now, I think they did not work on that. So this is kind of, let's say, competition in the product, okay? Because they follow what the people want, what their needs and their demands. Now, so that's Adam Smith, very well known, as they said, in the capitalism and industrial revolution era in England. And another name, very important name that we should mention also here, we have two here, you can see Thomas Malthus and David Ricardo. I don't know if you heard the two names. Now Smith, which is Adam Smith. I'm talking about Smith, his last name, okay? Smith's ideas influenced both Malthus, okay, and Ricardo. And also they have different political and here economic, ideas and philosophies and theories. So they believed in the natural laws also, but here governed that the natural laws, they govern the economic life. So it's similar to what Thomas said, Adam Smith, sorry. And they opposed government efforts to help poor workers. So this is the idea. So here we have kind of opposition against the government efforts, saying that the government efforts are not accepted to help the poor workers. Is it accepted or not? They raised this question. Should they be caring for that or not? Is it their role or not? That was the question. And their ideas formed the foundation of what is called later on in French, it's called laissez-faire. Laissez-faire in French means it is used also in English. We say the laissez-faire capitalism, which is let it be, or take it, leave it as it is, okay? Laissez in French means leave, or let it be, okay? Faire is doing, okay? So leave it as it is, and don't interact, okay? In Arabic they call it دعه يعمل دعه يمر, يعني without the interference of the government, okay? So that was the idea of Thomas Malthus and David Ricardo, that government should not interfere, and that should be the area of only competitors, without the, introduction of the government at that time, based on the foundation of what is called the rule that is called laissez-faire capitalism. Okay, of course you may agree or disagree, but I'm just giving you the ideas that they mentioned, and the way they used to think. Now, here, this is one of the, introduction on cartoons that was introduced on what is called capitalism. So capitalism focuses on what is being unequal. So if you are a capitalist, you believe that people are unequal, okay, by nature. So they are unequal by their needs, unequal in everything. So this is one way of thinking, and of course politics and economy, the way you think about it is, it's very different, because you accept inequality here. Now if you are a socialist, of course you accept inequality in a way, okay, but of course different philosophers, they talked about this, and they said there should be rules to govern that. Okay, this is another idea, but you begin with this, that it is the idea of inequality in capitalism, and we have different, what we say, parties and different groups of people, now, and races and so on. Now socialism, on the other hand, it's quite the opposite of capitalism. They believe on equality, and by this they try to fight poverty. So they want to end poverty based on equal justice, and they're talking here about equality in everything. So maybe the rise of what is called human rights began working or introduced from the socialist point of view. Now this is capitalism, okay, and capitalism here. So of course anyone, capitalism or socialism, you can put it here whatever you want. You have to think about its pros and cons, which means everyone or each of such theories in politics or in economy, you have to think of it in its weaknesses and its strengths. We have points of weaknesses and points of strengths from each point of view. And also here you can see, for example, this is a cartoon about how things were thought in terms of money, collecting money, in terms of people governing it, and people working to maybe maneuvering things and manipulating things to use the people, let's say. And that moves us to the idea that capitalism is an economic system. So it is a system, okay? It is economic, but it affects politics, as we said last time. So it is we talk here about factors of production of that product or material. And usually it's that production is, because we are talking about the factors, they are privately owned by people. So it's not governed by the government. Privately, it's owned by the people. And the money that comes because of that production is invested in business ventures, okay? And that makes the profit. So this is the idea of capitalism. So as if we are talking about here replacing what you used to have in Roman Empire, which is what we call the feudal empire. Okay, so replacing it with what was at that time that was called monarchies. So it's going from the feudal empires to monarchies. So economy, what is meant by this, I'm saying that economy affects politics, okay? So created markets with buyers here can sell, and selling of goods and services after agreeing on the prices, creating market types, different market types, all that affects in a way, for example, economy and let's say politics in different ways. For example, we have kind of what we call the system of competition. We have the system of course, competition here. You can see and check the definition of each. So if we say competition, we are talking about a kind of, you know, all powers are working to its you know, its peak and to its strength, and trying to compete in a way to see who can win the situation. If you are talking about monopoly, also we are talking about manipulation to win, let's say. If you are talking about oligopoly, here we are talking about a state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers and sellers, which is called احتكار القلة. Okay, so we have different ways of manipulation or capitalism on different theories. Of course, we each one of them may be, for example, accepted, morally accepted and ethical. And this is another question in philosophy. You can say, is competition ethical? Is monopoly ethical? Is oligopoly ethical? And so on. Now, and you can have a different argument about it, of course. Yeah, so that's the issue, that we have to think about it from the point of view capitalist or socialist. Okay, these are the two different forms. So it's a long distance trade instead of dramatically due to thinking of innovation and transportation at that time. So they used to think about capitalism in terms of, for example, individuals and how they thought about it, and how do they want to raise the businesses and to own the property of others, maybe. And we have here what is called the means of production, وسائل الإنتاج in Arabic. Okay, those who study little economics here knows what is meant by this. We have the progress results also. So we talk about individuals who follow their own self-interest. Okay, so we are talking about here the progress, about self-interests. We are talking about businesses that follow according to the self-interest. They compete, for example, for the consumer's money. They want the consumer's money. So that is the target. So each business tries, let's say, to produce its own goods and services. And here we are talking about two things in competition. It's not only goods, it's also services. This is a new term at that time. And, of course, the better you are, the less expensive. And that makes it better for the competition. Okay. And government here, according to capitalists, they should not interfere in the economy because of to make it easy for competition. Now, on the other hand, if you want to talk about socialism, it's quite the opposite. Socialists think that governments should interfere to make sure that it's not on the benefit or on to take care of those who are poor, so as not to raise poverty, for example. Now, so how did capitalism bring about the Industrial Revolution at the end? According to that, definition, that led to what is known at that time. It was known at that time, which is investing in factories, It increased production upon the higher demands of the raw materials that we mentioned, and that led to the world also to worldwide trade, let's say, and that is a new dimension here. Worldwide trade was not known clearly at that time, and also that led to new inventions, as you know, and innovations at that time. So that was the let's say the beginning of capitalism, and what is known at that time institutional capitalism. So we have the English Parliament that was clearly known under the control of capitalist classes. We have different classes, and that are capitalists, okay, and the classes here defined the parliament. So here it's the beginning of introducing economy into politics, you see? So how economy affected politics in a way. And the increase in agriculture production, and that the establishment and the rules that were established at that time for owning lands and positions. So we have the ownership. We have the lands, we have that were in common by tenant farmers at that time, and that led to what is called the revolution. The revolution so moved economic power away from the aristocratic classes that were known at that time, which is the same the capitalist classes, and that led them into the hands of the new middle class that is known after that with the name bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie in French is the middle class. And unfortunately, people think that bourgeoisie is, or bourgeois, is the name of aristocratic classes. It's quite the opposite. It is, so bourgeoisie, it's not aristocratic classes, it's the middle classes. الطبقة البرجوازية is not the same as the aristocratia, so they are two different terms in French, let's say. Okay, so that's in brief the development of let's say capitalism during the Industrial Revolution. I will share it for you and listen to your questions.